Do you think it's possible for an amateur poker player to become a high-stakes poker player without a poker coach and without studying any poker charts? We're about to find out. Now, phase one of this challenge is simple. We're going to grind low to medium stakes poker, win $10,000, and once we do that, we'll take our shot. All right, last episode I won just over $1,800, which takes my bankroll challenge to just over $3,000. And I also said last episode I was done playing in fun games over good games, so it wouldn't make much sense for me to go play a fun game today, or would it? Hear me out, okay? I was doing some research, and I noticed when I play on one specific fun game and lose, I've sat in the same seat every time. So, it's not my play, it's not the game, it's just the seat. I'll just move seats, problem solved. Let's go. We're playing 5-5 with a $1,000 max buy-in. But after that, it's match to stack. This game usually doesn't get too big until later in the night when I'm already gone. But today, my guy Dusty already has a $6,000 stack within the first 25 minutes of us playing. Now that stack would ultimately turn into this, but that's not the point. The point is, Dusty is really, really bad at, no, I'm just kidding. The point is, this game is about to play a lot bigger than I was hoping for. And my little $3,000 could potentially be gone in the next few hours. I don't get any time to settle in because within the first 30 minutes, I pick up 9-8 of spades in the small blind. The $10 straddle is on and there's 2 limps before Dusty makes it 30 on the button. I call, and so do all of the remaining players. So 19 ways to a flop, and we flop a straight. I check with plans to raise if anybody bets. Action checks all the way to Dusty on the button. Thank God he bets 50. Sticking to the plan, I raise to 200. All the other players fold, and Dusty announces, I snap call. I'm so confident I'm ahead until he shows King 9 for a higher straight. My heart sinks into the ground. But we could still chop if a king comes on the turn or the river. The turn is the deuce of spades, no help. And the river is another deuce, also no help. I've only been playing for 30 minutes and I'm already stuck $1,000. I rebuy for another 1,000. Now we're in for 2. Nothing of true significance really happens for the next hour. Besides me losing a bunch of money playing a bomb pot, of course, which leaves me with crumbs. I managed to win some small pots before I make a stupid decision. I look down at Jack 10 of spades in the +1. Dusty opens on my left to 25. I 3-bet to 75. Brandon cold calls in the cutoff, and then action folds all the way back over to Dusty. He does not call. He re-raises to 325. Obviously, I'm behind. This is an easy fold. But instead, I decide to gamble. I go all in for $550 total. Brandon folds and Dusty calls. We decide to go twice. The first flop comes ace high, and he shows pocket aces. We do not improve on that board, and now all we can do is chop at best. On the second board, there's a jack in the window, followed by a king and a 10, giving us 2 pair. But we're far from out of the weeds, though. We still need to fade any queen, any king, and any ace. The turn is safe, and the river is also safe. So even though I made an awful jam, I actually managed to make some money this hand, and also I didn't get scooped. I'm in desperate need of a double up at this point. If I don't win a hand soon, I'm gonna have to add on for more money. Thankfully, we pick up a decent starting hand. Ace 8 of diamonds. Dusty raises for the 58th time to $40. I call on the button, the small blind under the gun and +2 call as well. 5 ways to a flop, and we flop top pair. Our kicker isn't that good at all. So there's a good chance that that ace could potentially cost us the rest of our stack. Action checks all the way to me. Even though we could very easily be beat here, I want to find out exactly where I'm at. I bet 80. Only Dusty calls on my right. So now we're heads up to a turn, and it's the 9 of diamonds. Once again, Dusty checks. Initially, I was going to bet on this turn, but after thinking about it, checking on this turn makes us look weak and could potentially induce a bluff from our opponent on the river. And there's also a good chance I might be beat by a better ace still. It's also like checking back for pot control. That's what I decided to do. The river is another 3. Now Dusty leads out for 125. I snap call. He doesn't want to show, so I flip over my hand, and he mucks. Now, this isn't a big pot at all for this game, but when you're stuck a bunch of money, winning these small to medium-sized pots definitely help mentally. I've been playing for almost 3 hours now, and I picked up 0 premium starting hands. But towards the end of this video, that's all going to change. For now, we look down at this beautiful piece of trash, a 9-7 offsuit. Once again, I'm on the button, and once again, Dusty raises on my right. I call the 35, and so do the small blind and straddler. And now I see why people play these trash hands. Because we flop the nuts. Action checks to Dusty, and he c-bets for $75. I just called, hopefully inviting at least one of the remaining players. It works. The small blind calls. So now we're 3 ways to a turn, and it blows chunks. It's the 7 of spades. That's such an action-killing card. The small blind checks, and so does Dusty. Now if I bet, it's pretty obvious I have a straight, but there are still plenty of sets and 2 pairs I can call a medium-sized bet on this turn. So I bet 175. The small blind folds, and thankfully Dusty calls. The river also blows chunks. It's the queen of spades. Now we lose to Jack 9 and any flush. Thankfully, Dusty checks. Now, I don't know what worse hands will call a river bet here. I contemplate betting tiny for thin value, but in all honesty, I didn't want to give Dusty a chance to make a move and check raise. So I check it back. I show the straight, and he shows pocket tens for a set on the flop. Even when we're on the right end of a cooler today, we still managed to get a horrible run out and basically win the minimum. Now that hand definitely put me on a little tilt. But you know what usually cures some tilt? Pocket aces. A few minutes before this hand, I had it on for $1,000. So now we actually have a decent sized stack. Under the gun opens to 40. The +1 calls, and when you look who's in the +2, on tilt Nick. If there's anyone who can punt their stack to me and turn my night around, it's this guy. Action folds to me. I put in the 3-bet to 280. One by one, they all fold. Except for Nick. We're heads up to a flop, and it comes all low cards. Nick is a crazy loose player. He could have anything on this board, but that's not going to stop me from trying to pile money in the middle. I c-bet for 250. Nick calls. The turn is another 8. It's definitely possible Nick can have an 8 here, but I think it's a lot more likely he has straight air. If I bet again, he'll more than likely fold. I check to give him some rope. He checks it back. The river is a 7 of clubs. I still don't think Nick has much, and I definitely don't think he's calling a river bet for me. Now, I could be wrong, but I think the best option is to check again and hope he blasts off. So that's what I do. The trap is set. Nick has that crazy look in his eyes. I can tell he's about to go absolute. No, he checks it back. I show the aces. Obviously, we're good, and we make over $600 profit this hand. Now, I know that hand wasn't that wild, but this next hand is straight out of a movie. 15 minutes after that pocket aces hand, we pick up another premium pocket queens. The $25 straddle is on. Open to 75. The hijack calls, Nick calls on the button, and so does the small blind. What happens next is straight out of rounders 3.
Just jam, Dusty.
I didn't actually think he would listen to me and jam for $2,000. Obviously, I snap call. Now, you would think the rest of the table just folds, but Nick calls on the button. I didn't realize that I covered the under the gun player by $150, so technically, there's still a side pot between me and Nick. Now, I know what y'all are thinking. There's no way he could ever fold, but just wait. The flop comes Jack 4-8 all spades. I go all in for my remaining 150. Nick shrugs and calls, which tells me that we have him beat without a doubt, but we still have to worry about the under the gun player. The turn is awful. It's the ace of spades. If anyone has a spade, we're drawn dead. The river is a queen of spades, putting a flush on the board.
Chop it up!
Oh.
Chop it up!
So stupid.
Chop it up!
No!
So somehow, no one has a spade and we chop it up. As you guys can see, Nick called with 9-5 offsuit. We had him destroyed until the river. The under the gun player had ace king, so on the flop, we were a huge favorite to scoop this $6,000 pot. But somehow, some way, we chop it all up. That one definitely stings. I figured tonight just wasn't my night. I was only stuck a few $100s and was ready to call it. But then I managed to get super lucky in a double board PLO bomb pot. I turned the nuts on one board and I turned the second nuts on the other. I ended up scooping the entire pot and made over $2,300 of straight profit that hand. Shortly after that hand, I racked up and called it a night. Stay tuned for the final results. All right, here are the final results. I bought into that game for $3,000. Basically, everything I've won during this challenge was on the line. However, I managed to cash out for $4,635. That's a win of over $1,600, which takes the bankroll challenge to just underneath $5K. Now, there's a chance I could reach that $10K this week because as I'm shooting this outro, I'm about to go pack and head down to Austin, Texas. Today, I'll be playing at the new Texas Card House down there, and tomorrow, I'm going to be playing on the Lodge live stream. So the next two vlogs are going to cover those two sessions. You aren't going to want to miss it. Until next time, shut your mouth, stay locked in. Peace.